All right, so day, or whatever you call it, night 2 has begun. So here's the engine with the engine cover off, and the noise pipe has been disconnected. You can see that there. That opens up here, comes down across the top, across the timing wheel cover, and then connects right here on that engine bay. And then there's that single 8mm bolt there. You can just unbolt that along with I believe it's a 10 or it's another 8. Either way, it's right here. Once you disconnect those two and the two little quick connect springs I was talking about last night, you can just take that noise pipe out of the way. And then the engine cover, it's those two little springs under the mass airflow sensor. And then you disconnect the electrical connector for that, where that's right here. You just kind of squeeze this while pushing in and then pull out. And then you can just kind of set that to the side. And then you can pull the engine cover off of the 4 mounting points, which are here, here, back here, and over here. And then I actually put some high temperature grease on there last time, but it looks like that didn't really work very well. So don't put brake grease on there, or at least any kind of grease that's just supposed to withstand high temperature. I thought that would work, but I think it actually just made it worse. So I might clean that off and add something that makes a little bit more sense, so that next time I take the engine cover off, it's a little bit easier. All right, so the DIY I'm referencing says that you can disconnect this washer bottle and move it over to the side. I'm guessing that's going to give us plenty of room on this side to access everything, but it's definitely not just a 10mm screw. There's a screw here. That's the one that I think he's talking about. But also, there's these little clips for this pipe. There's 2 on this, one on this side and one on the back here. And then this MAF sensor connector is bracketed on with this little plastic clip. So I know I'm probably going to have to disconnect that to move it to the side. But I'll start by undoing these clamps and this screw to see how much room that gives me. So I'm just going to start with my little 10mm wrench and give this a crack and see if it'll just move without any issue. Yep. Ratchy boy. Okay, for this washer bottle, there's actually 2 small torque screws on the bottom sides of this washer bottle, just these 2 right here, and they're straight down. So you're gonna need an extension on your ratchet, I'm pretty sure, to get those bolts. Okay, so this washer bottle actually, after you take these 2 out, is pretty loose, but you definitely need to disconnect this electrical connector. All right, so I finally got this electrical connector off. Same little thing as the MAF sensor. Okay guys, I was wrong. The DIY does describe removing the 2 T20 screws on the back of the coolant tank and also the quick release for this hose. A very slow and gradual process, but with enough wiggling, yep, comes off fine. I moved it out of the way. It's sitting over there now. And as you can see, the pipe for the overflow is right here, or for the, the input is right here. That way you're not spilling any coolant at all. Oh, that's a size limit function. That's what that is. So it's like a 2 minutes and 50 seconds it stops. That's kind of stupid. So I was right in saying that the 2 bolts holding this bracket on are 14mm bolts. Just gonna have to crack those loose. And they're actually not too bad. Just gonna keep going on these, and then this little metal bracket should come out no problem. And that is what the bracket looks like. That's what one of the bolts looks like. I'm gonna make sure I keep these together so that when I do put it back together, I know what screws go with what. I also unclipped this quick release connection here. And that's pretty easy. You can just kind of use your fingers and extend it to where it unclips, basically. And that connects to this hose. So I was able to unkink it and move the coolant tank further back. There's a connection right here. That's the one you have to unbolt. this hose isn't flexible. This is a hard line. So, but as you can see, this coolant hose routes back in front of the timing belt cover. You can see that right here, and it wraps right around. So you do have to take that out. I just got to figure out how to do it. So now it's time to take off the serpentine belt. Basically, I'm just using a 16mm wrench. I'm placing it on the serpentine belt tensioner, pulling back pretty hard, and then I'm sticking in a 4mm Allen bolt to hold it in, to hold the thing in place. There we go. So now that 4mm Allen wrench is holding the serpentine belt in place while I loosen it, take it off completely. Now you can just pull that out. And obviously, while you've got the serpentine belt out, you should check its condition, make sure it's not cracked or frayed or bent in any way. And obviously this belt looks fine. So to remove this tensioner, there are 3 13mm bolts. They're actually, on my car at least, they aren't tightened down too hard. Now, that may have just been because this car had a new AC compressor. I'm going to crack the bolt down below the engine because I believe that's where the third one is, and then I'll take this out. I'll be right back. Hey guys, I know I'm off the mic here, but as you can see, this is the crankshaft pulley right here. The third bolt for that tensioner is right there. You can see it right next to the bolt for the alternator. It's right in the middle of the screen there. That's where you have to get it. It's not a very easy place to access, so I'm just letting you all know that, you know, make sure you can like fit a wrench or something like that in there, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to get that off. All right, guys, I'm off mic again, but I'm ending night or day 2, and I'm gonna give a quick synopsis of what happened. Basically, we removed that coolant tank. It's sitting over here now, and there's probably air getting into the cooling system, but who cares? Actually, I think it's probably fine, because when you take this cap off, it's doing basically the same thing. So, but basically, yeah, I took this hose off, you know, remove the engine cover, got all that stuff. The next thing we really have to tackle is we need to remove this engine mount, which has, I believe it's 4 bolts. Yeah. The 2 big boys here, you can obviously see those. And then the 2 stud bolts, which there's one here and one over here. That doesn't have a stud though, so maybe I was wrong there. But either way, yeah, these 4 need to come out, which will give us access to this timing belt cover. And then obviously down here, we still have to remove the crank pulley, which I will do as well. But basically what I'm going to do is those 6 bolts down there and the 4 here, I'm going to apply some anti-seize, that way, or not anti-seize, some some rust penetrant. That way they hopefully are as easy as possible to get out when we tackle it tomorrow. So the only issue I noticed during tonight was that when I unplugged this hose, I was a little rough with it, and it's possible, I don't believe I tore it. Like, I checked it and it looks okay, but there was like a couple drops of coolant that came out, I noticed. I saw it from the bottom of the car, so I'm hoping it was just a couple of drops from the hose, but I cleaned that all up with shop towels, and we'll see tomorrow whether or not there's a bigger leak. I'm definitely hoping not, but that's the only thing I noticed that happened. Everything else so far seems to be going fine, so once we get this engine mount out of the way, we should be able to hopefully get to the timing belt cover and finally do the frickin' job. So I'm expecting a couple more days, but obviously I've only had a couple hours to put into this. I think I actually only put in around an hour and 15 minutes tonight, so we're at a grand total of 3 hours and 15 minutes, so we'll see what happens next. One last thing I did before I go ahead and go to day 3, I took a shop towel for each open coolant end. You can kind of see that there. I just kind of wrapped it up and stuck it in there just to make sure nothing else comes out, and that way I can leave this car jacked up for another 24 hours or so, and we'll hopefully still be okay. Oh, I'm not recording audio.